All right, thank you guys. Welcome to our Major League Baseball video here today for Tuesday, May 25th. My name is Brock Page and I do sports picks for free right here on YouTube. And if you end up really enjoying this video here today, please feel free to give it a thumbs up by smashing that like button. And if you're new here today or this week and you haven't done so already, please go ahead and hit that subscribe button as well. I'd love to connect with you on a daily basis here. Now, if you're new to my channel here today and you want to see which one of these YouTube picks I'm actually betting on personally, you can also do that as well on my website at patreon.com/BrockPage. We're 2-0 in our last two crowd pleaser teasers on my Patreon website. And the good news is we have another crowd pleaser teaser tier package pick going off this evening. We're also 4-1 in our last 5 crowd pleaser teasers in that very same category. We currently have over 1,225 members. We're signed up and active on that site. And if you want to join those folks and get in on the action, link for that page is in the description section below. And once again, that is patreon.com/BrockPage. And with that, let's go ahead and dive into our full slate of Major League Baseball action. We're going to start with the Cubs taking on the Pirates, 6:35 Eastern Standard Time. The Chicago Cubs are -135, totals 8.5. The Pirates are plus $1.15 for some money line cash. They're also -140, catching the run and a half. Cody Ponce for the Pirates, Jake Arrieta for Chicago. Arrieta's got 4 wins thus far in the season, 31 strikeouts for the seasoned veteran. Chicago's also won 7 out of their last 10 ball games. And they cashed in on the run line in 62% of those road games. They're taking on a last-place Pittsburgh team who's 10 games below 500. And they're also 7.5 games behind St. Louis in the NL Central. This Pittsburgh lineup is dead last in the majors in scoring. They're averaging only 3.3 runs per contest. And when it comes to the total in this one, the Pirates are 27-19 to the under for the entire season. Chicago's also gone nearly 60% to the under for the entire year themselves. I'm going to lean toward the Chicago Cubs -135 and the under 8.5. Next game, Phillies Marlins, 6:40 p.m. Eastern start time. Miami Marlins are -130, number 7 juice to the over. Vince Velasquez for Philadelphia, Sandy Alcantara for the Miami Marlins here. Now, Alcantara has struck out 60 batters in just 57 innings of work. He comes into today's start with a 3.63 ERA and a 1.12 whip. Now, the Marlins are currently on a 3-game winning streak, and they also got the W in 6 out of their last 8. Miami also has a winning home record at the moment, and their pitching staff allows only 3.3 runs a game at Lone Depot Park. They're taking on a Philly team who lost 7 out of their last 9 ball games themselves. The Phillies have the second worst road record in the entire National League. They've only won 8 out of 23 road games. This Philadelphia pitching staff ranks dead last in road hits allowed, and, it's not particularly Velasquez that I'm worried about here. It's if the Marlins can get to this Philadelphia bullpen early in the game. Now, total-wise, Phillies 13-10 to the under when they travel. Miami's 27-20 to the under for the entire year. I'm going to lean toward the Miami Marlins -130 and the under 7 runs. Next matchup, Reds, Nats, 7:05 East. The Washington Nationals are -190, total 7.5 flat. Max Scherzer for Washington, Tyler Mahle for Cincinnati. Now, Mahle's just 2-2 with a 4.20 ERA and a 1.29 whip. The Reds are currently in second to last place in the NL Central at 5 games below 500. The Cincinnati pitching staff has also struggled on the road this year. They're in the bottom 5 in road runs allowed, bottom 3 in road walks allowed as well. They're taking on a Washington club who's on a 3-game winning streak. And they also got the W in 5 out of their last 8. Now, Max Scherzer comes into his start here today with a 4-2 record and a 2.24 ERA. The righty struck out 76 batters in just over 56 innings pitched. He also currently has an impressive .85 whip. The Nats currently have a winning record on their home field, and their pitching staff's in the top 10 in home hits allowed. Now, total-wise, 15 out of Washington's 22 contests at Nationals Park stayed under the line. The Nats also saw over 65% of their contests for the entire season stay under the total as well. I'm going to lean toward the Washington Nationals -190 and the under 7.5. Next matchup, Blue Jays, Yankees, 7:05 Eastern start time. The New York Yankees are -180, totals 9 flat. Corey Kluber for the Yankees, Steven Matz for Toronto. Now, Matz comes into today's start with a .469 ERA, 15 walks, and a 1.38 whip. The Blue Jays are coming fresh off a 4-game sweep to the Tampa Bay Rays, and they currently find themselves in the middle of a 6-game losing streak. This Toronto lineup is also in the bottom 3 in road walks. They're taking on a Yankee club who's really turned things around after a slow start to the season. They're just 1 game back of the first place Rays, and they're currently 14-9 straight up on their home field. Now, this New York Yankee pitching staff currently leads the majors in fewest walks allowed per 9. They're also in the top 3 in fewest runs allowed per game. Corey Kluber's 4-2 on the season with a .286 ERA and a 1.17 whip. He's also struck out 50 batters in just over 50 innings pitched. And when it comes to the number in this one, New York's seen nearly 70% of their home games stay under the line. They're also 29-18 of the under for the entire season. Meanwhile, the Blue Jays are 60% to the over as the away team themselves. I'm going to lean toward the New York Yankees -180 and the under 9 runs. Next ball game, it is going to be Indians versus the Tigers, 7:10 Eastern Standard Time. The Cleveland Indians are -145, numbers 9. Aaron Savali for Cleveland, Tarek Skubal for Detroit. Skubal is just 1-6 on the year with a .545 ERA and a 1.53 whip. The Tigers have the second fewest wins in the majors, and they currently find themselves 11 games below .500. Detroit's currently on a 3-game skid, and they scored just 3.6 runs per contest on their home field. They're taking on a Cleveland squad who's 5 games above .500 themselves, and they have a winning road record. This Indians pitching staff is in the top 10 in fewest runs allowed, and they also strike out 9.9 batters a game on the road. Aaron Savali's 6-1 with a .330 ERA and a 1.02 whip. When it comes to the total in this one, Cleveland's gone 60% to the under in their last 10 meetings with Detroit. Meanwhile, the Tigers are 27-20 to the under for the entire season. I'm going to lean toward the Cleveland Indians -145 and the under 9 runs. Next game, Royals versus the Rays, 7:10 p.m. East. The Tampa Bay Rays are -210, totals 8 juice to the over. Rich Hill for the Rays, Brad Keller for Kansas City. The Royals are currently playing .500 baseball on the road, and they cashed in on the run line in 11 out of 20 road games. This Kansas City pitching staff also allows just 3.8 runs a game when they travel, and they also rank in the top 10 in road hits allowed. Now, they're taking on a red-hot Tampa team who's won their last 11 straight, and they could very well win this one too, but they still have a losing record on their home field, and their lineup ranks dead last in the majors in strikeouts at the plate. Now, Tampa Bay strikes out 10.6 times a game, which, once again, that's most in the majors. The Rays are also scoring just 3.6 runs per contest at the Trop. Now, when it comes to the number in this one, Tampa's 13-10 to the under as the home team. Kansas City's seen 70% of their road games stay under the line themselves. I'm going to lean toward the Kansas City Royals +1.5 and the under 8 runs. Next ball game, it is going to be Rockies versus the Mets, 7:10 Flushing, Queens. The New York Mets are -270, total 6 flat. Jake DeGrom for the Mets, Kyle Freeland for Colorado. Now, Freeland's making his first start of the 2021 campaign. He actually strained his throwing shoulder back in late March during spring training. He certainly has his work cut out for him, as the Rockies have the worst road record in the bigs. They're just 3-17 straight up when they bat first, and they successfully cashed in on the run line in only 30% of those road contests. Colorado's dead last in the majors in road scoring, dead last in road hits. They're taking on a Mets club who's gone 11-5 straight up at Citi Field, and they currently find themselves in first place in the NL East. Jake DeGrom comes into today's start with a stingy .68 ERA, along with a .60 whip. He struck out 65 batters in just 40 innings of work. This Mets pitching staff leads the majors in runs and hits allowed at home. They're giving up just 2.1 runs a game in Flushing. Now, total-wise, the Mets are 13-3 to the under at Citi Field, 24-17 to the under for the entire season. Meanwhile, Colorado's gone 11-9 to the under as the away team themselves. I'm going to lean toward the New York Mets -1.5 and the under 6 runs. Next matchup, it is going to be still in that 7 o'clock slate. Like I said, a lot of games, full slate tonight. Every team's playing. But anyway, next game, Braves versus the Red Sox, 7:10 p.m. Eastern start time. Atlanta's -115, totals 9.5. Charlie Morton for the Braves, Garrett Richards for the Bo Sox. Now, Richards is 4-2 on the year with a 3.72 ERA. Boston is currently 10 games above 500. And they find themselves only a half a game ahead of the Rays for first place in the division. Or they find themselves only half a game behind the Rays for first place in the division. Okay, I'm getting mixed up here. But anyway, this Red Sox pitching staff also ranks in the top 10 in striking batters out. They're taking on an Atlanta team who's a game below 500 overall for this season. Their pitching staff is in the bottom 10 in runs allowed, bottom 3 in walks allowed on the road. Charlie Morton's just 2-2 on the year with a 4.60 ERA and a 1.29 whip. When it comes to the number in this one, Atlanta's 27-20 to the over for the season. Boston's 14-11 to the over at Fenway. Give me the Boston Red Sox plus $1 and the over 9.5. Next game, O's Twins, 7:40 p.m. Eastern first pitch. The Minnesota Twins are -210, totals 9.5. Jose Barrios for Minnesota, Dean Kramer for Baltimore. Kramer's a dismal 0-4 thus far in the season, 6.35 ERA, 1.59 whip. The Orioles are currently on a 7-game losing streak, and they also dropped 14 out of their last 16. Baltimore's also 13 games below 500 on the season. They currently find themselves 12 games behind the first place Rays in the division. This Baltimore lineup's in the bottom 10 in scoring on average per contest, while pitching-wise, they're in the bottom 3 in hits allowed per game. They're taking on a Minnesota club who's been much improved over the past week or so. They're currently on a 2-game winning streak, and they also got the W in 4 out of their last 5. Now, Jose Barrios has been one of the few bright spots for Minnesota in the early going here. He's 4-2 with a 3.91 ERA and a 1.11 whip. Now, when it comes to the scoring in this one, 5 out of Minnesota's last 8 ball games stayed under the total of 9.5 runs. Meanwhile, Baltimore has gone 14-9 to the under as the away team. I'm going to lean toward the Minnesota Twins -1.5 and the under 9.5 runs. Next ball game, it is going to be Padres versus the Brewers, 7:40 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. The Milwaukee Brewers are -1.25, total 6.5. Corbin Burns for Milwaukee, Joe Musgrove for San Diego. Now, Musgrove's got himself 4 wins thus far in the year, 2.47 ERA and a .86 whip. San Diego is currently 12 games above 500 right now, and they're in first place in the NL West. Their pitching staff currently leads the majors in strikeouts per 9, and they also allow just 3.1 runs a game. They're taking on a Milwaukee club who has a losing home record at Miller Park. This Milwaukee lineup is also in the bottom 3 in home scoring, bottom 5 in strikeouts at the plate. Milwaukee averages just 3.5 runs a game on their home field. And despite their Despite the excellence of Corbin Burnes this year, he comes into today's start with a losing 2-3 record. Now, total-wise, Milwaukee's 14-9 to the over at Miller Park. San Diego's 13-7 to the over when they bat first. Give me the San Diego Padres plus 105 and the over 6.5. Next game, Dodgers Astros, 8:10 p.m. East. Dodgers are minus 115, numbers 8.5. Kershaw for LA, Greinke for Houston. Greinke's 4-1 with a 3.77 ERA and a 1.17 WHIP. The Astros have also done a real nice job on their home field. They're 15-9 straight up at Minute Maid Park, and their pitching staff allows just 3.8 runs a game there. They're taking on a Dodger club who's got several key guys out of the lineup despite their current win streak. Seager and Bellinger are out. Mookie Betts is also listed as questionable. This Dodger team averages nearly double-digit strikeouts at the plate. And if you're looking to increase your value on the run line here, the Dodgers have successfully cashed in on the run line in just 10 of 25 road games. Now, when it comes to the number in this one, LA's last 2 straight both got over the not the posted total, but they both got over the total of 8.5 runs. They're also 25-22 to the over for the entire season. Meanwhile, Houston's 14-10 to the over at Minute Maid Park. They also saw 64% of their ball games for the entire season get over the line. I'm going to lean toward the Houston Astros plus $1 and the over 8.5. Next ball game, it is going to be Cardinals versus the White Sox, 8:10 p.m. East. The Chicago White Sox are minus 140, totals 8 juice to the under. Lucas Giolito for the White Sox, Jack Flaherty for St. Louis. Now, Flaherty's still perfect on the season. 8-0 for the year, 2.53 ERA. The righties also struck out 55 batters in over 53 innings of work. And he comes into today's start with a .99 whip. Now, the Cardinals are currently in first place in the NL Central. They also rank in the top 3 in the majors in hits allowed per contest on the road. They're taking on a White Sox club who lost 3 out of their last 4 ball games. Lucas Giolito has also walked 21 batters and comes into today's start with a 4.35 ERA. Now, the righties also just 3-4 thus far in the season. And when it comes to the total in this one, Chicago's 14-9 to the under at Guaranteed Rate Field. 26-20 to the under for the entire year. Meanwhile, St. Louis is 27-20 to the under for the entire season themselves. I'm going to lean toward the St. Louis Cardinals plus 1.5 and the under 8 runs. Next matchup, Rangers versus the Angels, 9:38 p.m. Eastern first pitch. The LA Angels are minus 150, numbers 8.5. Andrew Heaney for Los Angeles, Hyun-Jong Yang for Texas. Now, Yang comes into today's start with a 3.38 ERA and a 1.17 whip. The Rangers are also coming fresh off a 3-game sweep of the Astros, and they successfully cashed in on the run line in 61% of those road games. Now, they're taking on an Angels club who's currently 7 games below 500, and they're in last place in the AL West. Now, the Angels have won just 11 of 25 on their home field, and they're in the bottom 3 in the league in runs allowed. Andrew Heaney is just 1-3 on the year with a 5.31 ERA. Trout and Stassi, they're both still out of the lineup on the IL as well. When it comes to the total in this one, LA 17-8 to the over at Angel Stadium, 28-19 to the over for the entire season. Meanwhile, Texas saw 61% of their road games get over the total themselves. I'm going to lean toward the Texas Rangers plus 1.5 and the over 8.5 runs. Next ball game, Giants versus the Dbacks, 9:40 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. The San Francisco Giants are minus 165, numbers 9. Kevin Gausman for San Francisco, Corbin Martin for Arizona. Now, the D-backs are currently 12 games below 500, and they're in last place in the NL West. Arizona's the proud owner of an 8-game losing streak right now, and they also dropped 11 out of their last 12. This D-backs pitching staff is dead last in hits allowed per contest, bottom 3 in runs allowed as well. They're taking on a Giants club who's 9 games above 500, and they rank in the top 3 in runs allowed on the road. San Francisco's giving up just 3.6 runs per contest as the away team. Kevin Gausman's also a perfect 4-0 thus far in this season, 1.66 ERA and a .80 whip. He's also punched out 67 batters in just over 59 innings of work. When it comes to the number in this one, San Francisco's seen 50% of their road games get over the total. Meanwhile, Arizona's 11-7 to the over at Chase Field. I'm going to lean toward the San Francisco Giants minus 165 and the over 9 runs. Next and final matchup, Mariners versus the A's, 9:40 p.m. Eastern start time. Oakland's minus 170, totals 8.5. Irvin for Oakland, Gilbert for Seattle. And somehow through just 6 2/3 innings of work this season, Gilbert's 0-2 with a 9.45 ERA. The Mariners are currently 4 games below 500 right now, and they've been victorious in only 10 of 24 road games. They also lost 6 out of their last 7 contests, and they're dead last in the league in hitting. The Seattle lineup's also averaging just 3.7 runs a game. They're taking on a first-place Oakland club who's 7 games above 500 right now. This Oakland pitching staff is also in the top 10 in fewest walks allowed per 9. Cole Irvin comes into today's start with a 3.59 ERA and a 1.16 whip. And when it comes to the total on this one, Oakland 17-11 to the over at home. Meanwhile, Seattle saw nearly 70% of their road games get over the total themselves. I'm going to lean toward the Oakland A's minus 170 and the under 8.5. And with that, guys, now we're going to jump into our quick pick recap, powered to you by my Patreon website. I like the Chicago Cubs minus 135, under 8.5. Miami minus 130, under 7 runs. Washington minus 190, under 7.5. New York Yankees minus 180. No. New York Yankees minus 180, under 9 runs. There we go. Cleveland Indians minus 145, under 9 runs. Kansas City plus 1.5, under 8. New York Mets minus 1.5, under 6 runs. Boston plus $1, over 9.5. Minnesota minus 1.5, under 9.5. San Diego plus 105, over 6.5. Houston plus $1, over 8.5. St. Louis plus 1.5, under 8 runs. Texas plus 1.5, over 8.5. San Francisco minus 165, over 9 runs. Before I give you my next and final free pick for the video, one final reminder that we are 2-0 in our last 2 crowd pleaser teasers on my Patreon website. We're also 4-1 in our last 5 crowd pleaser teasers in that very same category. I'm going to lean toward the Oakland A's minus 170 and the under 8.5. And once again, guys, if you found yourself really enjoying this video here today, please feel free to give it a thumbs up by smashing that like button. And if you're new here today or this week, please feel free to welcome yourself to the party by hitting that subscribe button as well. I'd love to connect with you on a daily basis. But with that, guys, that's going to do it for me. Don't forget to check me out on Patreon. If you guys decide to get a package here today, just keep in mind Patreon's going to bill you the day you sign up and then the first of every month following that. But most importantly, guys, got to thank you for joining me right here on YouTube. Really hope you enjoyed all this great free content, all this great free information. And with that said, happy Tuesday to you. Best of luck to you. And I look forward to seeing you later on today on my website at patreon.com/BrockPage.